Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the McConaughey at YouTube with another model video. We will be finally looking at the Gunpla Builders World Cup 2018 rule set in English, covering Australia, United States, Canada. All screenshots, information, rules, as well as where to register is found on the Gundam.info websites around the Gunpla Builders World Cup 2018 page. This was promised around February, moved to March, and we've got our update in the first week of May. Some of the heats have concluded, much like the one in Hawaii. Luckily, the main rules do not line up to how confusing that was. Other events are just around the corner, so it doesn't give the people who built their models a lot of time. However, we'll bear with what we have available to us. To my disappointment, the rules are very much similar, almost exactly the same as last year, and also in the same condition of being quite jumbled, unorganised, hard to understand, and not quite consistent between the different English-speaking countries. Will not explore the other languages for now, though I do highly recommend, after watching this video, do further research, read into it, ask questions and explore for your own understanding. Because it's practically the same as last year, we'll make this video very short, though compare the differences and highlight what's very important for the design of your model over everything else. For more resources in great detail and depth, I've done 3 videos in the past which can be found on the channel discussing the 2017 rules, as well as criticizing the final outcome and doing a quick roundup of it. The reason this video is being made is not necessarily for the trophy hunters or those wishing to win or fare well, but everyone to have a fair go and have their models judged. From my experience with previous years' judges' notes and colleagues, it's been noted under the rules this year but not made so clear. Contestant work description and details against the rules and regulations are forfeited without notice, but not necessarily removed from show. There is a clause regarding the online section, which we'll cover later. Models that are not clearly up to scratch or abiding by the rules will not even get a look by the judges to save time. This is where you can make their job far more difficult. When you enter the Gundam Info website and click on the individual country for the rules and regulations, you'll be met with a ton of titles and subpoints under each title. The ones listed in the screen right now are pretty much not really necessary, mostly focusing on what requires to occur if you win, some privacy bits and pieces, what Bandai can claim with photos and application of your work that's been submitted, and probably the most important thing to take away: if you do win, do you have the ability to leave your country of residence and enter Japan? Prohibition also has a ton of ridiculous elements that just repeat itself over and over again. First element, categories, not even across the board. The United States and Canada is quite easy, where if you're over 15 you're in the open category. The winner of the open category is the representative of that nation in the final competition in Japan. Australia is a bit more complicated and pretty much follows the same structure and layout in previous years. You do get in a bit of trouble if you're between the age of under 10 or 15 to 20. 21 plus is the open category. Winner of that represents Japan, and to represent the juniors is the 11 to 14 year category. The categories apply to the Americans for their finals. They do have a series of qualifying regional events leading to the final event, as well as an online competition. The regional events are not necessarily important and can be bypassed straight for the finals. If you're willing to travel to the event space and time where the finals is taking place. The idea of the regionals as well as online is to allow everyone to have an equal opportunity to compete. For further information and clarification, check out the Bluefin Distribution website or any sources they have in regards to the Gunpla Builders World Cup. Rules. Any sort of violation of these will get you instantly disqualified without any opportunity to appeal. The important things to pick up from that is the use of legitimate Bandai products, none of the third-party resins or bootlegs, one entry per person. You can't walk into an event and enter, as well as online. The models to be built by yourself. Online, you don't steal an image and put it up. In person, you can get in trouble if you commission a model and get other people to work on aspects or finish it for you. Strictly 50 by 50 by 50 centimeters or 500 mil. I've almost got caught out in that. 3D printing is an instant disqualification, yet the American-Canadian site says that those aspects would not be judged. I would not test that rule, however. In short, buy a Bandai kit or a series of them to bash together, work on it yourself, and present as such project. Prohibition is just an extension of rules. It is a minefield and very confusing to navigate. It's practically what Bandai's just added on over the years. The select few kits that will be winning or placing high will also be representing Bandai and used as a marketing tool, so they do not want any of the imagery of the winners to reflect badly on their brand. So lots of common sense aspects are included, such as excluding personal information, anything that could be damaging to an individual, an organization, or be a liability to Bandai. So they do stress the copyright aspect quite heavily, though nothing that has sex, race, politics, or could be offensive or cross lines in social justice. I would avoid anything with humor or extreme distress or emotional storytelling elements. Australia has copyright mentioned twice unnecessarily. Copyright as well as intellectual property and mimicking other modelers, artists, known modelers' work or previous winners of competitions and styles has undone a lot of people and not been deemed eligible to even be judged by looking similar or slightly off. So even though it could be an IP that Bandai does have under its control, such as Star Wars or Pokemon, some other anime, or even a Western influence, anything that's color scheme, looks, markings, or scratch built added from another kit or toy details is to be avoided. To be absolute safe, to be within any sort of thing of questionable doubt, stick to the Gundam anime canon or go in your own direction and imagination. Within the constraints of the out-of-the-box kit, doesn't seem to be the future of extreme scratch builds, and cluster kits are not so favoured. Regarding third-party elements, it has been speculated that this is primarily focusing on decals. The Bandai line of aftermarket decals is quite appropriate. However, third-party sets that depict Gundam markings, or maybe something as simple as just warning signs, could land you in hot water. The use of non-Gundam decals such as military and generic sheets seems to be of extreme high risk and also should be avoided. Anything resin, especially cover kits, are assumed to be absolutely out of the question. Borrowing parts from other styrene kits is quite safe, though it's suicidal if you use parts from a third-party kit or a kit that infringes on Bandai's intellectual property. Generic aftermarket parts, such as the Kotobukiya modelling support goods, are A-OK, as well as photo etch metal thrusters and all those bits and pieces. If you're entering via photo online and not in the event, you have your advantages and disadvantages. A few flaws might be hidden with just the right camera angle, and photo doesn't quite have the same wow factor as seeing it in person. The photograph is the most single important thing, including the background. Don't overclutter it with detail or effects or whatever. Nice plain background, very well lit, and keep taking photos of the front, back, and the extra aspects until it's striking and impactful. That's the best way to sell yourself. Poor lighting and an average photo will be washed away with all the other entrants. This screenshot with a collection of rules and dot points are important regarding photo entries. Criteria has really gone backwards in providing information to help you out. In the past, the panel below shows you a breakdown of 100 points between 3 aspects of painting skill, build and creativity. In short, you're automatically awarded 100 points for painting and build, and it is deducted for every mistake or irregularity, what's not preferred, as it goes down. The best built model with the most ambitious mods and whatnot fare well, though the 1/3 aspect that's a wild card, the creativity, is not documented whatsoever. A lot of resources are offered in my other videos mentioned at the start. When framing the colour scheme, the build, the mods, the story, the diorama, think what would be very photogenic to be taken in one or a few angles and posted on social media, rather than looking in a real life competition shelf setting, and something that Bandai intends to put on a front cover of a magazine like Hobby Japan. Imagine that. Would your model be suitable for a magazine cover? Mr. Kawaguchi, the chief judge, does have a strong stance about weathering and realism versus surreal creativity. Most models, in his opinion, are overly too weathered and should consider the environment they're in that's being told by the story regarding rust and paint chips and stuff. Focus what happens on the close ground and what may occur in space. Cut back on mud splashing and the rust aspects for this competition. Diorama and Base can be a double-edged sword. It will assist in creativity and telling your story and basing framing the whole model. Not necessarily ideal depending on the angle for the whole magazine cover aspect. Whatever you do on the diorama will not give you more points, though however any mistake or glaring issues will deduct points. In your design, consider the choice of universe you're depicting from the source canon, as well as what machine that you're going to be displaying and how much of its Gundam design and imagery that is retained. Bandai intends to sell models through your image, so it needs to look as close as possible, with refined features to look cooler or more interesting. Avoid full scratch builds, obscure mobile suits, very old or vintage kits, and look what's been released in the past few years and heavily publicised or marketed. One of the most important things to stress with competitions. It's not something you go in, build the ultimate model, win and move on. It's a bit of a journey of growth and improvement from competition to competition. If you win, you defend your title the next year, or if you're coming out the bottom, you want to step and improve with the whole community that's also improving to retain their position or take first place. The most valuable feedback you could get is from the judges. If they disqualified you, if they've removed points, what they're exactly looking for, and ask questions about where they've improved, what jumped out to them in a negative aspect as well as a positive aspect. Listen to their criticism to other modelers as well and compare notes with your colleagues. Finally, plan, research, pace yourself. Write down notes from this video, other rules and elements of important. Design your kit of what you're going to buy, budget for how many materials you need, paints, how many kits to bash together, basing diorama methods, how you're going to pack it, how you're going to store it, how you're going to get it to the venue, especially if you have to travel. Set goals, write down lists for each stage that you're building, painting, whatnot. Start as early as humanly can. Supposedly you should have started late last year or pretty much at the start of this year. And most importantly, be informed, research, ask questions, take notes and have fun. This is an enjoyable thing. This is a hobby, it's a thrill, it's a drive. You're meant to get those butterflies in your stomach when you're going to the event, just give you all sorts of thrills, meet people, make it into the big social event of the year and whatnot. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned, good luck, plan ahead. If you wish to share your work in progress, drop a line in the comment section. Would love to have a look. And if it's not becoming fun, don't do it. Bow out. Take a break for a year. Do something else. Maybe pick it up a little later. Catch you guys next time.